all of the firstborn, from the crown prince down to the servant, they all lost their firstborn child. And this was the cause of many caricatures throughout the centuries. Goebbels was a master at it, having a Jewish rabbi with a big sword, getting the sword ready to kill, God forbid, a Christian child for matzahs. Al Jazeera still, those lowlifes, still publicize those falsehoods as if they were true, putting this on television in front of hundreds of millions of unknowing Islamists, as if this was something true, that the Jews added blood to their matzahs. There's nothing in the matzah except for flour and water. And blood is prohibited for any Jew to ingest in any form. This is a form of prejudice from the world against the Jewish people. But they base it on the fact that the night of Passover, God killed out all the firstborn children. So what was this event, and how can we celebrate it if it was an act of violence? I'll explain. There was once a man who came before the great sage Rabbi Abba, son of Ivo. And he asked Rav, he had problems getting married. He says, is there anything wrong with my lineage that I can't marry? And Rav asked him, what are you? He said, I was a convert, a Ger Tzedek. Rav examined his motives, and he said, there's nothing wrong with you. You can marry any Jewish girl you want, even the daughter of Joshua, son of Nun. Joshua only had daughters. Understand how precious they were. So the man said, in that case, give me your daughter. Rav made as if he didn't hear him, and the man persisted. One of the rabbis said, Rabbeinu, our teacher, master, if you don't give him your daughter, nobody else will, because they see what he's doing, and if you don't, he will remain forever unmarried. But Rav asked the man to rescind, to stop asking. The man refused. Maybe out of frustration, maybe out of anger. He refused. So Rav looked at the man who wanted to be his son-in-law. And immediately the man died, and the Talmud says he became a pile of bones. We celebrate Rav as one of the greatest of the entire period, not just of the Talmud, but from the Second Temple on to him, and later, for 1,000 years, there might have been 4 or 5 others that ranked on the same level as Rav. How can we honor and venerate a person who looks at another person and kills him? Explains Rabbi Chaim ibn Attar, the great Jewish sage who lived in North Africa and later settled in the Holy Land. In his commentary, Or HaChaim, the light of Chaim, the light of life, he says as follows: a righteous person is a holy person and draws sparks of holiness to him or her. And when a righteous person's eyes gaze at something, the holy sparks within that thing are drawn naturally to the eyes of that holy person. And Rav lifted up his eyes to see what kind of a person is this man who would be his son-in-law. Rav had no intent of harming the man, just what was this man truly like? As soon as he lifted his eyes and gazed into him, the soul of this man, realizing that he was a mechutzaf, an insolent person who had violated all the rules of proper behavior, the soul was attracted to the eyes of Rav and refused to re-enter the body. And in that way, the person died. On the night of Passover, God's presence was felt by all of the people. But the ones who were most sensitive to the presence of God were the souls of the firstborn. All of them. Hebrews, Egyptians, slaves, all of them. They were all attracted to the presence of God and wished not to return, for in the presence of God, everything is splendid and wonderful. The only way a person could remain in the body, even when seeing God, is when the person has good deeds or mitzvot, which make his body an abode for godliness and for God. The people of Israel had been given the commandment to circumcise, as well as to offer the sacrificial lamb. This was not just an ordinary sacrifice. This was an act of defiance of idolatry. For you see, the lamb was the idol of Egypt. It was often during the month of Aries, which is the month in which that sign is worshipped, the sign of the ram. So this was an act of defiance of destroying the idol of Egypt in its month, the very height of the month, the 15th, when this idol is supposed to be most powerful. This was an act of defiance of the entire people. And so, the firstborn had this act of self-sacrifice, together with the self-sacrifice of the pain of circumcision. There was no anesthesia then. They were all circumcised. And together, these two mitzvot, these two commandments, kept the soul within their bodies. It is for this reason that to this day, the firstborn are redeemed. I am the firstborn, and I had to be redeemed. For you see, the firstborn would not have been alive had it not been for these mitzvot, these commandments that God had given us. The other souls of the firstborn, the Egyptians, all the way down to the servants, their souls remained one with God and left their bodies. And so, it's not a celebration of the death of the firstborn. Rather, it's a celebration of the presence of God that brings the souls close to God, sometimes in life and sometimes in death. But they felt no pain. They only felt love. They felt closeness to the Creator of the universe.